In 2002, a young producer turned rapper performed on MTV with his jaw wired shut, the result of a near-fatal car crash. Despite the pain, despite the metal holding his face together, he delivered his verse. That determination, that hunger to prove himself, defined early Kanye West. 20 years later, we see a different man, one who praises Hitler, mocks domestic violence victims, and seems more interested in controversy than creation. Few figures in modern pop culture have been as polarizing as Kanye West. Regarded as a creative genius, a cultural icon who once revolutionized hip-hop with his raw creativity, a visionary who redefined music and fashion. But today, Kanye West stands as a symbol of controversy, a man whose rise and fall exposes the fault lines of celebrity, politics, and everything that's broken in our culture. But what if I told you that Kanye isn't to be blamed for it all? He's a symptom of everything that's wrong with our society. From toxic celebrity culture to the weaponization of outrage, from the downfall of artistic integrity to the illusion of free speech, Kanye West is not the disease. He's the diagnosis. And today, we're going to break down why Kanye's rise and fall say far more about us than they do about him. To understand Kanye's downfall, we first have to understand his rise. Unlike most rappers of his era, Kanye wasn't born into the streets. He was raised in a middle-class home in Chicago. His mother, Donda West, was an English professor, and she instilled in him a sense of ambition that would later define his career. But the industry wasn't ready for Kanye. In the early 2000s, rap was dominated by gangster personas. Kanye didn't fit that mold. He was a producer who wanted to rap, a nerd in a genre obsessed with street credibility. But by 2004, the college dropout had redefined hip-hop, blending soulful samples with introspective lyrics about race, class, and ambition. Kanye's success was a defiance of the norm. He proved that rap could be vulnerable, introspective, even emotional. His first three albums, The College Dropout, Late Registration, and Graduation, solidified him as one of the greatest artists of his generation. But Kanye wasn't just a musician, he was a cultural force. Albums like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Yeezus pushed boundaries, earning him critical acclaim and a devoted fanbase. By 2019, Forbes declared him a billionaire, thanks to his Yeezy brand. Yet even at his peak, cracks were beginning to show. His outspoken nature, once seen as refreshing, often crossed into controversy. The media anointed him a voice of a generation, but in doing so, they overlooked the red flags: his erratic behavior, his growing ego, and his struggles with mental health. It all began at the 2009 MTV Video Music Awards, which is regarded as Kanye's first public scandal. And at the time, it was seen as a reckless outburst. But looking back, it was the start of a much bigger pattern. One where Kanye West would seek controversy, either as a cry for help or a calculated move to dominate headlines. And by 2016, something fundamental had changed. Social media had created an ecosystem where controversy generates engagement, outrage translates to visibility, the most extreme views get the most attention. And Kanye, always a master of attention, learned these lessons all too well. Kanye West was once an artist. Now, he's a brand. And when art turns into a brand, something vital is lost. Look at his career trajectory. His early work, The College Dropout, Late Registration, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, was revolutionary. He set trends, pushed boundaries, and delivered music that felt personal and profound. But at some point, Kanye stopped innovating and started recycling. His music became secondary to his persona. His brand overtook his art. Instead of being known for his creative genius, he became known for his political stunts and erratic behavior. And here's the bigger issue. This isn't just a Kanye problem. It's a music industry problem. Today, the most successful artists aren't necessarily the most talented. They're the most marketable. Algorithms favor virality over substance. And Kanye's career is proof that an artist can stay relevant long after their artistic peak, if they're willing to trade creativity for controversy. And by 2016, Kanye had fully embraced controversy, not just as a side effect of fame, but as a strategy. He aligned himself with Donald Trump, wore a MAGA hat, and declared that slavery was a choice. The reaction was immediate. Some fans abandoned him. Others argued he was making a statement about free thought. For a while, it seemed like Kanye had found his niche as the rebellious truth teller, an artist who defied expectations, even if it meant alienating his audience. But then, in 2022, things took a much darker turn. There's a difference between being controversial and being self-destructive. In late 2022, Kanye West crossed that line. He made repeated anti-Semitic comments, embraced white nationalist figures, and doubled down even as public backlash grew. That wasn't just another scandal, it was career suicide. Within weeks, Kanye lost almost everything. Adidas dropped him, cutting his net worth from $2 billion to $400 million overnight. Other brands followed. He became persona non grata in Hollywood. Even his closest allies distanced themselves. But here's the real question. Why did it take this long? The truth is, Kanye had been spiraling for years. The industry tolerated it as long as he was profitable. But once he became a financial liability, they cut him loose. It wasn't about morality, it was about money. And this tells us something important about how power works in the entertainment world. But here's where things get darker. Kanye West didn't just understand controversy, he weaponized it. In the social media age, attention is currency, and outrage is the most valuable asset. Every time Kanye said something insane, it wasn't just a headline, it was free marketing. He learned that the more outrageous his statements, the more engagement he got. It's the same strategy politicians and influencers use. Provoke, divide, dominate the algorithm. And here's the scariest part. It worked. Each controversy brought more press, more clicks, more money, until of course it didn't. For nearly 2 decades, Kanye manipulated our obsession with celebrity, leveraging controversy, drama, and self-mythology into one of the most successful brands in entertainment. But here's the problem. When you build an empire on controversy, you can't stop. You have to keep escalating. The public doesn't just want music, they want spectacle. And eventually, the spectacle eats the man alive. And that is exactly what happened with Kanye. But to truly understand Kanye's fall, we must ask, is he simply a troubled individual, or is he a mirror reflecting the deeper ills of our society? His controversies tap into several major issues: the cult of celebrity, our addiction to social media drama, and a political climate that rewards outrage over substance. Consider this. In the wake of the 2024 elections, we asked youth to rank their top 3 issues. A staggering 64% pointed to the cost of living and inflation, problems that Kanye's outbursts seem almost trivial in comparison. Yet his ability to dominate the conversation reveals a disturbing truth. Even as millions of young people demand meaningful change, our cultural icons are left to spout controversy, distracting us from systemic issues. Kanye's rise and subsequent controversies expose our collective weakness, our inability to distinguish between genuine innovation and sensationalism. In our current world, where algorithms reward outrage and headlines are made of controversy, Kanye's antics are not just his own. They're a symptom of a system that prioritizes shock value over substance, of a society that is increasingly divided, where outrage is commodified, and where a few sensational moments can eclipse the real, hard issues affecting our lives. And as this system continues to evolve, one can't help but ask, is Kanye West a victim of this very culture, or is he its mastermind gone awry? But the real tragedy isn't just about Kanye, it's about young artists watching and learning the wrong lessons, the normalization of extreme behavior, the erosion of accountability, the commercialization of controversy. So what do? The answer isn't to cancel or ignore. First, we need to recognize patterns of enabling behavior. Think about this. When Kanye announced his support for controversial figures, his social media following grew by 25%. When he released Vultures, despite widespread criticism, it still debuted at number 1. We've created a system where provocation equals profit. But this isn't just about Kanye. Look at Britney Spears' conservatorship, Lindsay Lohan's public struggles, or Amy Winehouse's tragic decline. In each case, an entire industry profited from their crises. The paparazzi made millions, the tabloids sold copies, the managers kept booking shows. Consider this. In 2023, Kanye's controversial statements generated over $150 million in media value for various platforms. Every outraged tweet, every shocked reaction video, every "can you believe what he said" article contributed to this ecosystem. We're not just observers, we're participants. So, what's the way forward? We need to understand our role as consumers. Every time we engage with controversy for entertainment, we're feeding the machine. It's not enough to express shock or concern if we're simultaneously amplifying the very behavior we claim to condemn. We must create spaces where substance thrives over spectacle. When Kendrick Lamar speaks about mental health in Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, it generates thoughtful discussion. These are the conversations we should amplify. We need to hold platforms and enablers accountable. This means questioning the brands that profit from controversy, challenging the media outlets that sensationalize suffering, and examining our own consumption habits. The truth is, Kanye West isn't just a cautionary tale about fame or mental health. He's a mirror reflecting our society's values, or lack thereof. So what do we learn from all of this? As fans, critics, and citizens, we must realize that Kanye West is a reflection of everything broken in modern society. He represents our obsession with celebrity, our addiction to instant outrage, the decline of artistic integrity, our failure to foster nuanced discussion, and our tendency to elevate personalities over principles. When we celebrate provocation over creation, when we value attention over intention, we're not just watching a tragedy unfold, we're writing the script for the next one. While young people struggle with real issues, rising inflation, the healthcare crisis, climate change, the media fixates on Kanye's latest meltdown. Why? Because spectacle sells. The more outrageous you are, the more engagement you get. And as long as we keep buying into it, the cycle will never end. The question isn't whether we can save Kanye West. The question is whether we can save ourselves from the system we've created. Because right now, somewhere, another artist is learning these same lessons, watching these same patterns, and realizing that in our society, notoriety pays better than nobility. The young man who once rapped through a wired jaw did it because he had something to say. Perhaps it's time we asked ourselves what we're saying through our silence, our engagement, and our choices as consumers of culture. Because in the end, the real tragedy isn't just what Kanye West became, it's what we allowed ourselves to become in the process. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you find this video insightful, do like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.